So I got a little secret. I have been afraid to do something for so many years, like 15 of them, in fact, and that is to use contracts. That's what we're talking about today. Let's dive in. What's up, everybody? I'm Chris, and you're back at FlyRyde, where I talk about the what, how, and why of custom automotive lighting. Now, in this case, it's going to be very different because I'm not showing you how to make crazy little electronic parts. I don't know, I'm just going to be talking about some boring safety legal issues. If you are a buyer or you are a builder, if you're not on the same page with each other, things are going to go crazy. I can tell you because I've messed this up a ton of times. I've had to go to court. I've actually gone through all of that, the scariness. At the end of the day, what it comes down to is, are you on the same page? Are there some agreements that you guys have both talked about? Because I bet you there's a few things that you have left out. Warranty, what's covered, what's not. Things like paint issues, things like craftsmanship issues. But what if a little LED chip doesn't light up? It's covered by a manufacturer's warranty, so hey, it should be a free replacement, right? Okay, cool, it should be replaced for free. But what about the shipping involved in getting the lights from the customer back to the builder and then back to the customer? Is that covered by the manufacturer? I wouldn't hold your breath about that. These are the issues that builders face all the time. Who's at fault if all sorts of awesome work has been done and then one tiny little part out of the builder's control messes up? If you are somebody who's spent good money on getting something custom done for you, I appreciate that. You want something special, that's fine. Just be aware that if those parts have an issue, even if there's a manufacturer warranty behind it, that the guy that's gonna put his hours into it to fix everything up, he's gonna have to get paid. It sucks, it does. That's why I'm making this video. I think making this video sucks. I think having to have a contract sucks. There's other things that just need to be talked about, like everything cool aftermarket automotive is off-road only. I don't know, it just is. Certain cars need little tiny things like load resistors, otherwise they'll cut power to things. Like my big issue that I had to deal with was a guy was afraid of, hold on. He was afraid of these. These are little load resistors. His car actually will cut the power to the low beam if you mess with that factory bulb because it's a BMW and the car just knows if you do anything. So because an $8 part was not installed, dude's low beams didn't work, he was like, oh, you gotta give me $2,000 back. Guess who didn't have a contract? That was a hard deal for me. Stories like that happen to everybody that builds lights. If you don't have something already set up in place and that guy thinks that he can take you to the bank, maybe he will. That would suck, but you know, that's the kind of thing that happens in the world. So in my contract, it says that, you know, if the application requires that there's like a tiny little change that has to be done on the car, for example, things like load resistors. When I did the Lamborghini taillights, there's no way you can trick that car unless you use certain parts. And so that's what we had to do, which is another good reason why you should specialize. Like I talk about in my 5 months to 5 figures course, specialize, do one job over and over and over again so you can learn all the ins and outs of it. Because if you build lights for a car that you've never done before and you do a perfect job, but that car needs a little load resistor so that it doesn't cut power to that part of the car, the only way that you're gonna find out is through the customer. And if he gets real mad because he has to install an $8 part, like what happened to me, you might end up looking at a judge in a small claims court with the guy saying he needs to give me $1,000 or $2,000, or like, I don't know, maybe the guy will go for the throat and try to get you for whatever he can for his pain and suffering on the car. If you're a guy that does that, I wish you wouldn't be watching these videos. Just flee, run away. Don't watch custom lighting. Don't watch custom anything. Don't do custom. Just keep it all OEM. All right, things like returns. Hey, well, I ordered these lights, you just spent 2 weeks building them, now I have them, and I changed my mind, I don't want them anymore, I don't like this or that about them, take them back. Whoa, that's a thing. That actually happens for sure. People do that, and they're like, and refund me for shipping, and refund me for all that. Like, I don't blame Amazon for stuff like that. It's entitlement, it's people just, they think that they can get every single thing that they want because they want it. Can't go tell a tattoo guy, yeah, well, you know, my grandma doesn't like my tattoo, so I want you to remove it and pay for the removal, and like, wow. Returns, please be clear. If you're gonna put a contract together where you're gonna use the template, oh, I didn't tell you, there's a template. You can use it, you can take it, it's yours. Thank you, Caesar at Lightworks, for providing the skeleton for this whole thing. and for, I don't know, kind of giving me the courage to really take this, really start implementing it, send it to guys with the Lambo, send it to the guy with the Kia. Who cares? As long as it's in place, I can move forward and we can do really cool stuff here on this channel. So I'm pumped. Contracts, woohoo! We're gonna talk about shipping. Shipping's a big one. For some reason, people don't want to think too much about this. If you're down the street from me and you want to get a custom job done, or you're across the country from me, should you pay the same amount for that same custom job to get done, even though hundreds of dollars has to be spent on shipping? Like, should it just be the same price? Should it? I know I'm asking rhetorical questions here, but like, no, it shouldn't be the same. It's different. You're far away, like you have to get there. Like if I want to go on a cruise and the port is in Florida, I don't pay the same price all inclusive to leave from Long Beach. Like I have to get to Florida and it's not free. Like shipping my body from here to Florida costs money. Anyway, yes, shipping is something that the person that wants the thing should pay for. It just makes sense. I don't care if you don't believe me. It makes sense. Let's talk about condensation. Condensation sucks, and it happens naturally, like inside of headlights. You can see marks inside of lights. People don't believe it. You're like, oh yeah, your lights aren't perfect. They're like, yes, they are. You're like, no, they look perfect until you get really close and you see that the chrome bouncing all that sunlight right into your eyeballs, it's hiding the fact that there's little drip marks that are actually present there. Turn on the lights, look at them in the nighttime with that HID or the halogen bulb illuminating all the little imperfections. You'll be able to see stuff. Like that's typically gonna be the case. Lots of older GTRs, they all have drip marks in them. Why? They weren't modified. It's just what happens. Changes in climate, geography, shipping, all sorts of weird things happen that can cause condensation. Can any one custom headlight builder ever say, I will never ever have any condensation in any of the lights that I build? No, you can't. There should be certain things that are put in place, like your lights fill up with water. That's not okay. That's not acceptable. If you get the normal amount of, I don't know, just a weird light fogging or something like that, should the whole thing be refunded and all this stuff we talked about before? Like, no, not if that's just a natural occurring thing. It happens in OEM lights. How's some dude building lights in his garage or in his shop supposed to make sure that like he changes the rules of life? Products that have little LED chips in them. Heat will destroy those parts. So over time, they're gonna get messed up. Over time, the LEDs are gonna die. All the parts that are inside of OEM lights, like the ones that also die that you see on the road, like LED taillights with LEDs that are out, or a guy's got LEDs in his headlight. One of them's all bright and beautiful and the other one's off. Yeah, it's because things like LED drivers die, the cooling fans and stuff like that. All this amazing stuff, the technology that's built into the cars that are out on the road right now is crazy. It's so good. But it was also developed from the ground up. It was put there from the onset. When the guy decided he was gonna put a cool little strip, there's gonna be this little LED line right there. There's gonna be this optic, it's gonna amplify the light. Then there's gonna be this little cooling fin and maybe a fan and all this crazy stuff. That's just not what aftermarket parts have in them. It sounds cool, but I don't know. Maybe one day, probably not. LED parts can die, especially the color changing one. Addressable stuff, boy, are there all sorts of parts that can die on those. It sucks, it's true, it's not perfect technology. There's no perfect technology with the LED lights. Like, stuff dies constantly. It's the reason I'm making this video, because parts are gonna die. They're just not gonna last the life of the car. Probably not. You may experience some issues over time, but it's reasonable. Custom paint. So there are certain headlights that for whatever reason, such as the GTR, if you paint certain parts of that light, the sunshine comes in, it does this weird little magnifying glass effect, it pinpoints, it turns into a laser beam, and it melts the plastic, not the paint. So the paint might start showing signs that it's all glossy or like it's brittle or flaking or something like that. And most people would look at that and be like, oh yeah, that paint is peeling. Well, what if the plastic underneath that paint is all melted and moving around because the sunlight turned into a laser beam and it melted that plastic? Is there like laser beam proof paint? No sir, there's no laser beam proof paint. So if things start melting because the projector has sunlight coming into it and this like natural like acts of God are melting parts of your light, that sucks. But there's no way to know certain things like that are gonna happen. I know personally it happened to me on a bunch of GTR lights. It cost tens of thousands of dollars because you can't just buy that part. You have to buy the whole headlight, The headlight costs $3,000. That sucks, but that's how things went for me. It was another one of the wonderful stories of how I've lost money building custom lights over the years. Projector burn, it's a real thing. Sunlight turns into lasers, stuff bad happens, it's not good. But it's also not covered. It shouldn't be covered. How are you gonna know that things are gonna turn into laser beams? That's crazy. Like if they're chrome, it's good. You paint it black, laser beams. Nobody needed to paint that part black. It was a voluntary decision. I just tell people, no, I don't want to paint your part black. It stays chrome, and then there's no laser beam problems. But if you don't know that, then it should be in your contract. Aftermarket headlights. They just probably shouldn't have any warranty because they're way worse than OEM lights, and OEM lights can leak. So like, if you get this flimsy, super thin plastic aftermarket light, guy wants you to pump $2,000 worth of cool stuff in there, and then like the headlight has issues down the road, like bro, you started off on the wrong foot with that whole thing. You should just know. I mean, there are some really cool aftermarket lights out there, but at the end of the day, they use different materials. They can get weird little effects on the headlight lenses, the little spider line crackling. That happens on OEM lights. Ask any guy with C6 Corvette if his headlight lenses are like amazing because they're from Chevy. They're not. They're just pieces of plastic that can get damaged. So if you have an aftermarket light and it's got a cheaper piece of plastic, it can definitely get damaged. And you should know about that before you spend a bunch of money and then think it's gonna last forever, because it's not. Permaseal. Permaseal sucks. Permaseal is like Satan's glue. So how this works is it's the same thing like the rubber butyl that I talk about all the time. I show you my scary machine and you can buy it in rope form and all that, except it's not that at all. It's evil, sadistic cousin. And it is very, very permanent, which is why we call it Permaseal. It's so strong that you can't just stick it in the oven and then the stuff lets go and it's all good. If you have permasealed headlights, such as pretty much all the BMWs, lots of cars have it, a lot of domestics have it. There's varying degrees of how hardcore that stuff is. Some of it, you can just get it pretty hot, shove a screwdriver through it and it'll kind of let go. Other stuff is like, dude, it is hardcore. You cannot get that stuff off. Lots of scraping, lots of slipping, stabbing yourself, and bleeding and cursing happens. That should cost a ton of money, first off. And second off, there's just gonna be a difference in appearance after it's all said and done. A lot of guys like to just pry the absolute crap out of that headlight channel and then like remove all that and then put butyl in there. Oh, it makes me sad. It makes me want to just like stay in bed all day when I think about Permaseal and bending it. But anyway, Permaseal sucks. If you have Permasealed lights, it's probably a smarter move that the guy that's doing the work cuts open your lights. But in order to cut open your lights, you shouldn't use a saw. It's gonna put debris everywhere. It's gonna be hard to clean up. It's just gonna be ugly. You should use an ultrasonic cutter. That cutter costs $1,700 from Honda. I don't know why Honda has ultrasonic cutters, but they do. And they're dope and they're expensive. Probably the best way to go about it if you've got some super hardcore stubborn lights and you gotta chop them open. A lot of truck lights, same thing. So if you have that, guy's got an expensive tool, he's obviously a trained professional. Yeah, that's gonna be an expensive job. You should spend plenty over $1,000 for your custom build if you started off with permasealed lights. And then there's just other things, like it's just not gonna look like it did originally. Like there's gonna be sealant marks, there's gonna be things that happen that you have to expect ahead of time. Whether or not somebody tells you all of this stuff, this is all real things. Like these are things, maybe people don't talk about this. I would rather talk about it on a YouTube video, even though people get all mad. So you talk too much. Like, what am I supposed to do? How are you supposed to get this information? I could have typed it and you could have just read it this whole way through. Oh wait, I did. It's my contract. Yeah. Anyway, I thought you'd rather somebody just explain it. That's why we're here. Extra little precautions you can take when shipping lights. I've had people seriously take a set of lights, stick it in a cardboard box, like rattling around, and then stick another light in the same cardboard box. Now there's two things rattling around, crashing into each other, and they stuck it in the mail and shipped it to me. And guess what happened? Obviously it showed up broken, right? Was that my fault? No. Does it suck? Yeah. But now I'm doing things different. Now I'm actually like putting a video schedule and I'm like doing all this stuff around and involving other people and trying to stack different jobs next to each other. And oof, I don't want that to happen. I just want you to pack the box very nice before you ship me lights. So for me, my information now is a lot different than it used to be. I'm actually making videos for my living. That's what I'm doing. When I'm building custom lights, I'm doing it on the basis that I'm creating video content for it. My contract states exactly that. For most people that are building lights, they're doing it because you gave them money and they built you lights, and that's the deal. It's a little bit different with me. That's okay. We're not talking about me. This is for you. If you want to know what happens if there's some warranty issues, like there's fogging in your headlight, or an angel eye falls over, or some little LEDs don't light up anymore, those things need to be covered in your agreements and policies if you're a business. If you're going to buy something, make sure that business that you're going to buy it from has some information about that. And I encourage you to, I don't know, get over your fear like I'm trying to do now and use something like this. I'm making it simple using a program called Docusign. I can send off a digital contract. You can sign it on your phone, send it back. We're good. We're on the same page. Nobody's hiding anything. Matter of fact, I'm making a YouTube video about that weird contract, so I definitely don't think that there's anything left unsaid after we get going with that little piece of business. This video is really only for one person. It's the person that needs to know this information. It's probably not you. I'm sorry that you watched all of this if it does not pertain to you and you're never going to use this info, but I did want you to know that there's nothing hidden in a contract. Matter of fact, I'm going to link up to my contract so you can read it. I have to pay money every time I send this to somebody for them to sign when I use that program called Docusign. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to put a link to the actual PDF. You can download it. I'm also going to put a template down below. You can thank Caesar at Lightworks for mapping that whole thing out. You can use that. You can change things around. I'll make a Word document, make it so it's downloadable. I don't know. That's probably all going to live on lightingcourse.com. So if this is something that you're doing and you got this far into the video and you're actually absorbing this and you're going to go put it to use, you need to be on lightingcourse.com for sure, because whether it's free or whether it's paid material, there's stuff there specifically to help you as a builder, to help make this industry a funner, I don't know, safer place to flex your cool building light skill muscles. All right, guys, hit that like button, hit the subscribe if you want to see more of this. Smash the notification icon bell thing. I'm going to keep them coming. I'm going to keep a lot of them coming. Lots of product videos, lots of informational videos, lots of how-to videos. I love you. Peace out.